Morning, guys. Captain Steve Betts with Tampa Flats and Bay Fishing Charters here. Um, guess we're all kind of getting a little antsy and kind of stuck at home due to this virus thing, and uh, I'm a little stuck because I decided not to run fishing charters due to the health of myself and my wife and my customers. But that's my decision. So dealing with it. But I thought, today, woke up this morning, I saw a question on Facebook about somebody asking about explaining tides and moon phases and stuff. So I thought about it and I said, you know what? Let me see if I can make a little video and kind of explain it a little bit. Um, so maybe you'd understand it a little more. I'm not the best at this whole video seminar thing or explaining things like this, but I'm going to give it a shot and see if I can help you out a little bit. So anyway, first thing I would do if I was you is get an app on your phone. If you don't have a phone that you can do apps on, and most of them can nowadays, I'm sure, use your laptop, computer, whatever, and do it with that. Get you some kind of an app to show you tides. I have an app installed on mine. There's hundreds of them out there. It's going to probably be a little bit difficult for you to see this, but there's hundreds of them. So this is the one I like. It's got the graph on it for the tides, and it's also got where we're at on the moon phase. Right today we're 95% waning. We're 2 days off of the full moon. Tuesday was full moon. So today's tides for the Gandy Bridge, Tampa Bay area. And that's the nice thing about this app is you can switch areas. You can get tides for anywhere where you're fishing. But I use the Gandy app mostly because that's where I go out of. And then I will move around on this depending on what part of the bay I'm fishing in and just take a look at the tides there because they are different. If you're in the very north end of the bay, the tide's going to be different than what it's going to be down by the Skyway. Um, at the same time, that you're looking at. So this morning we have a uh, low tide at 10:22 a.m. I'm just using this as an example today of what I would do if I was going to fish today. And we have a high tide at 4:15 today. Um, and it's going to be at 2.6. The low tide is going to be a 0.8, so it's going to be 2/10 of a foot lower than under a foot. It's going to be a couple tenths under a foot. So I know this morning that if I was going to fish and I wanted to fish for snook, I have a spot that I can go to that I know it's going to be stacked up with snook. And this spot, it's a flat. I can get in with my boat on that flat uh, on a 1.5. That's how much water I'll need to get in there without getting stuck, basically. Um, so when it gets to 1.5, it's going to be, let's see, 1.5 is going to be at 12:48 today. Now, let me explain something here real quick about the tides. That's if they're on time. The tide apps, none of them can predict the tides 100%. I don't care what app you use because things change. Wind conditions, that sort of thing can make the tide do something different than what it was supposed to do. Like say you have a incoming tide and you've got a honking northeast wind. In Tampa Bay, it's typically going to hold that tide out and it's not going to come in like it said it is. But anyway, we're doing this under ideal conditions. So we're going to have a 1.5. So I'm going to go over to my hunting and fishing app with the Solunars, and I want to take a look at when the minor and the major time is going to be for feed time. So I'm going to go into that app, and this one I know you're not going to be able to see much on, but anyway, this is my uh, minor and major feed times. My major today, the time I'm going to be fishing, is from 1:35 to 4:35 p.m. That's the major. The minor is at 7:28 to 9:28. There's actually two major feed times and two minor feed times, but we're going to use these on this app. So when I get over here back, so I know at 1:35 to 4:35, there's about a 3 hour span there. Um, we're going to have a major feed time. So I'm going back over here to my app. So at 12:48, I'm going to be able to get into this spot. High tide today is at 4:15. I've got time. So I'm going to roll up here a little bit. And oops, let me get down here a little bit. So around 1:35, it's going to be a 1.8. So I've got plenty of tide left. This spot doesn't have a lot of mangrove shoreline, so these fish will sit on this flat. I'll be able to get access them very easily. Okay, so I'm going to get in there and get set up. Now from about 1:35 to 4:35, we're going to have a major feed time. I'm going to be in there, baited up, ready to go, and more than likely, these fish are going to go off. Um, Even on this moon phase, because the fish feed all night. They typically start feeding again. They'll feed in the morning still for a short period of time, but then later in the afternoon they'll start feeding again. So that's going to be my prime time, is to fish right there on this spot. Now, you can't always fish during the prime times, so it's just the way it is. Fish will still eat during the day. Your bite's just probably not going to be as good. Um, you're going to hunt and peck, especially for snook. It's just the way it is as far as that goes. So if you're going to go out and fish, if you can time your trips, try using an app of hunting and feeding times, Solunars. Try using an app like that and get you an app for the tides. Take a look at it, and all this other stuff with the wind direction and stuff like that. It's all stuff you're going to have to learn by time on the water, your location and where you fish. You have to figure out when that wind's blowing, um, the direction it's coming out of. How is it going to affect the tides in your area, in which direction it's going? For instance, say you have I'm fishing on this tide here, and I'm fishing a mangrove shoreline, and I know these snook typically stage up out off of these mangroves, and I can find them. Um, but I've got an incoming tide with a honking south wind. Okay, well, more than likely, if I go there on the Solunar period, if I was to go today on that Solunar, that tide may have came in a lot stronger, especially on this moon phase. It's going to be moving. It's going to come in a lot stronger. That water's going to get higher, and then those fish are going to move, and they're going to move more than likely back into those mangroves where you're not going to be able to get access to them. It's just the way it is. So you might have to plan to be there a little earlier so that you can get those fish while they're still on the outside. Um, that's just it's all timing. This is all stuff you're gonna have to learn as you fish. The more you're out there, the more you'll learn about your spots. I see a lot of people that they fish spots and they don't learn the spots. Fish will be there one day, they're not there the next day. Well, what changed? Something changed. A lot of times these snook, they don't move very far. You might you might find them here on this part of the shoreline one day, and then the next day you go back, oh, they're not there. They're not on my spot. Well, they might be there, maybe 25, 50 yards down the shoreline somewhere. They're going to move. Um, were you fishing a mangrove point? Man, these fish were here yesterday. Well, what's the tide doing? Is the tide a little different? Is the tide moving and going out now, or is it coming in? Those fish may have been staged up on that point in a certain spot, waiting for that bait and that food that's coming around that point um, on that particular part of the point. They may have moved just a little bit. They might have moved maybe around the other corner. Um, it's just, it's all time on the water trying to figure this out. It doesn't come overnight. So get you a couple apps and go out and fish. And what I suggest is, if you want to be, if you can time your trips according to the moon phases, do that. If you can't, just go fishing. Look at your tides, try and figure things out. Um, you may not be productive at first. Uh, I don't think anybody just goes out there and magically starts catching fish when they get into fishing, start doing this. It's just, you know, you have to learn it, and it does take time. Time. I can't stress that enough. Time on the water. Uh, so anyway, hopefully that kind of helped you a little bit. It's, I'm not the best at this. I'm trying to help a little bit and just see if maybe you guys can catch a few more fish and not waste as much time looking for them. Anyway, thank you. Y'all have a good day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll try and do some more videos, kind of help you guys out.